Hello, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode, the 69th episode of the Scary-ish podcast.
Woo!
With, I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz,
Hello.
and we're going to tell you guys some cool stuff today.
Indeed we are. I'm really excited for this episode, not just because it's the sex number.
I hate that sound whenever I hate all the sounds that come out of your mouth. Okay, anyway, all right, so we're going to cover, what is your thing, possession or something?
I am covering the story of Nancy Bowen, which I have a different name for when we get to it. That's the name I'm going to put on the episode title, I think, because it's shorter. We'll get to it. You'll see. What are you covering, Robin?
I'm going to do the Myrtles Plantation.
Right on. We are recording late, so if we're a little bit loopy, we apologize. I will say up front, I'm a little bit extra tired because I started my new job today.
I thought you were just going to say, like, I'm a little bit extra. Boom.
No, but I am a little bit extra. Boom. But no, thank you all for the loving support you have shown me during this unemployment period. It's been good and bad and ups and downs. You know, it sucks. And it's been great that I actually found a place that I'm really excited to go work for. And sitting down and talking with these people, I was like, I really want to work here. They offered me the job. And I make more money than I used to. So it's a blessing in disguise when you get laid off. And if you're unemployed right now, then things will turn around for the better. And I'm just saying that I believe that during that time because of our audience and the support that they gave me. And
the
you guys
support of your family.
And yeah, those guys are right too. Especially my family. You guys sent up a bunch of prayers for me. And I know we joke around about thoughts and prayers. But when people reach out to you when you're struggling and they're like, look, I'm really pulling for you. Like, I hope you do well. Like, it's sending thoughts and people being like, I'm going to pray for you. Like, when you go to an interview, it's like, I'm not saying I think that's going to work, but it can't hurt.
Well, and then your mom totally saved your butt this whole entire time.
Yeah, she has. She's been amazing, and I'm super grateful for her. So thank you to everyone, and I hope this job works out. Who knows, by Wednesday, maybe I'm be like, they fucking fired me. Who knows? Fingers crossed that doesn't happen.
Oh, my God, whatever.
But yeah, I'm really excited to go back to work. So I just want to say thank you to everyone, and today was my first day. And I got up at 6 a.m.
It's cool because it's like all these people are on this journey with you. So they've been there when you got laid off.
They were,
and they're here now when you're getting a new job.
The other blessing in disguise was the time off that I had. We were able to get the live streams up and running because that's what I dedicated my time to initially, was making sure that we had stuff picked and making sure the stream was going to work and going through all the mind-bending problems of troubleshooting a stream when you first start, because I had the time to do it. So now that those are like kind of like, I'm not going to say that we have those on lock because we do have problems with them every now and then, but I can go to work, come home, get the stream set up, get on the stream. We don't have to change the time or the date or anything like that. So
cool.
Good stuff. But Robin, did you even say what you're covering yet?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I'm tired. I told you I was tired. So are you going to go?
Your shit together.
Are you going to go first or am I going to go first? Whose shit needs to get gotten together now?
Oh, you can go first.
Right on. So, hate you so much. This week, I straight up went to the well of stuff that I found, like, prior to doing, like, topic search. Like, every week, I do two things. I go, do I want to do one of the topics I found before, or do I want to find a new one? And I do my due diligence, and I look for a new one, and if anything catches me, I do that one instead. And so, stuff stays in the well, but I knew, because today was today, that I was going to go to the well, and I was going to dedicate all my time to doing research rather than finding a new topic.
Was it a wishing well?
Sure. It was more like a topic well, if that makes sense.
I'm just imagining Snow White singing into it.
I haven't seen that movie in forever, so I have no idea what happens.
I thought you were going to say, like, you've never seen it ever.
I've seen Snow White. Like, I know the whole thing. I remember the dwarfs, and she's really mean to them, and then they beat her up, and she falls into a coma or something like that.
Oh, my God.
Pretty sure that's what happens in that movie. Anyways, so this is a really good one, though. I came home, started working on the script right away. And like, while this story does involve a Ouija board, I'm not calling it Ouija boards 4 because this story is actually like crazy and more about the people and the incidents that took place. And it's also a true story. And I'll get
true crime.
I'll get to some part. Okay, give away the crime part, but I'll get to some parts where I let you know, which is like speculation. Anything basically with a yo dog or dialogue is me making stuff up as normal. But I present to you, dear listener, Nancy Bowen versus the White Witch of Buffalo.
Does she get Bowened by the White Witch? No.
Okay, here we go. So, like I said, the episode title is shorter because that title is really, really long. But I still really liked it, so I decided I was going to call it that. But it's the best name for this topic, and you probably have a couple questions just from hearing that title. And hopefully one of the questions you have is she a good witch or a bad witch?
She's a white witch, right?
Which is it's from Wizard of Oz,
which
I still cannot believe you haven't seen, which you're going to have to watch. #scene missing, #movie podcast, # coming at you soon, which I can't wait to get up and running.
It's never going to
But I'll let you, the listener, decide on her witch status. I'd say she's lawful good after understanding all this. Anyone, yes, that's that movie. Anyone who's played D&D understands what lawful good is. But this story begins at the end of 1929. And I think we all remember 1929 from back in the day. I mean, honestly,
World War I.
It's 10 years away, so it's just 90 years ago. But no, this isn't pre-World War I.
Oh,
this
it is
post-World War I.
Oh,
shit.
shit.
This is after it was over, yeah. So it's the end of the Roaring 20s. So let me refresh your memory since Robin clearly doesn't remember.
Oh, is that what Panic at the Disco sings about?
Pretty much. So in 1929, I love these history lesson segments. In 1929, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre occurred in Chicago, Illinois.
What is that?
Essentially, there was a war between two gangster factions, Al Capone.
Oh, is that what Gangs of New York is about?
No.
Oh.
I just said Chicago, Illinois.
Oh.
Man, you are just shitting all over this microphone tonight. I like how you're like, get your shit together. And then you start it with that nonsense. St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Chicago. Essentially, Al Capone had 3 of his gang members go into a place and just murder like 5 of the opposing gang members. Just, shoot them down in cold blood. What else happened in 1929? Well, 7-Up was invented. And I think we all love 7-Up. That's when it was invented. It was 1929.
I love 7-Up.
The Oscars had its first ever ceremony, not televised because the television wasn't around yet. The first car radio was made by Motorola. The Vatican gained independence from Italy, becoming its own state. And for those of you who didn't realize that, the Vatican is its own place. What?
The first car radio was made by Motorola?
Yes, it was. You're welcome. Your brain can thank me.
But it's like, how far have they fallen from being the first to make the car radio? And now it's like, we make these phones. They're called the Razor.
Why do they talk like that?
I don't know, because it's dumb.
Poor Motorola.
It's just like, I don't know.
I'm just saying, everyone had that phone back in the day that you could play Snake on that was like virtually indestructible. So they made pretty good cell phones for a while too, and they still make other stuff. It's like the Hello Moto, like that was all them for the longest time. So
and what do they make now?
I don't know, razors, like not for your face, for your ears. All right, I'm gonna keep going with this history lesson. It's the Razor phone. You know what I'm talking about. And what else happened in 1929? Of course, starting on October 28th, my brother's birthday. 1929, way before my brother's birthday, the stock market crashed, and I mean hard. Like jump off a building and kill yourself hard. Not recession.
Depression.
This day was known as Black Monday, and it was considered the first day of the Great Depression in the United States of America. Realistically, I hate you so much. It affected the entire world. And speaking of Great Depression,
I don't get it.
You'll get it in a second.
Oh.
There was a woman named Nancy Bowen who had just lost her husband.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is. Great Depression. See, you get it now. Nancy was a Native American school teacher, and her husband's death had turned her world upside down, not in the good way. And her husband named Charlie.
Is there a good way to be turned upside down?
Yeah, there is.
Oh my God.
When I wrote
69.
When I wrote it, I was thinking about Stranger Things. I didn't even realize it was the 69th episode, but that worked out perfectly. Her husband, whose name was Charlie Bowen, who was also known as Sassafras Charlie, which is a
cool name.
The best name ever.
Can we call our friend Charlie that?
Sassafras Charlie.
Sassafras
You have
Charlie.
been renamed, Charlie. But he was a tribal healer, and she also dabbled in some tribal healing. He died under mysterious circumstances. People weren't exactly sure how he died. There was no cause of death. That was back in the day when they didn't do autopsies for everything, and it was hard for people to tell what was wrong. Nancy's best friend was a woman named Lila, Lila, Jimerson.
Okay.
What?
No, what's that name of that person on the radio?
Delilah.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't understand. She doesn't know who Delilah is, which just tells you how little she listens to the radio.
All I know is, hey there, Delilah. What's it like
it's not about
in New
her.
York City?
I will murder you, I swear. I don't have the patience for this tonight. Anyways,
but tonight you look so pretty.
Yeah, I walked right into that shit, didn't I? Nancy's best friend was named Lila Jimerson, and she was like, yo, dog, let's bust out a Ouija board and ask your dude how he died. Because he died under these mysterious circumstances. She thought this would give her some form of closure, which I think is a reason why a lot of people turned to seances and spiritualism back in the day.
I mean, when we watch horror movies, it seems to be the big reason why. It's like,
everyone's always
my
trying
dad
to talk
died, or my friend died.
For their dead relative or whatever. So as a side note, by the way, if you're ever thinking that's a good idea, it's a very long shot, because what if the planchette spells out something from your dead relative? It's probably going to say, how should I know? Because you don't gain access to WebMD in the afterlife. You're the least likely person to know how you died, unless it was of like nefarious means. So they bust out this Ouija board.
Nefarious or nefarious?
It's whatever I want it to be.
Okay.
All I know is Griffin McElroy says Diaz instead of Deus.
What?
Yeah, and he says it all the time. And in my brain, I thought the word Diaz earlier. And I was like, nope, I need an ice pick for my eardrum now. So I blame him, though. He infected my brain. He's a DM of a podcast I listen to called Adventures, and I talk about it all the time. All right, let's get back to this. So Nancy was 66. This doesn't exactly matter, but Nancy was 66. Lila was 36. She was 30 years younger. And it's always an interesting dynamic to me when an older person listens to a counterpart half their age. But I think Nancy's grief and her friendship with Lila made her just say, like, okay, let's do this. They bust out the Ouija board, and they're like, new board, who dis? To which their Ouija board replied, it's Charlie. Who else, dog? And again, this dialogue is obviously not accurate, but the story does state that the board confirmed it was Sassafras Charlie speaking to them. How did the board confirm that?
Was Sassafras Charlie just full of sass?
Sorry for that pause. I was debating whether or not I wanted to slap myself. I decided not to. But the board confirmed it was Sassafras Charlie, supposedly. I hope you can hear my air quotes. And when they asked, how did you die? He replied, quote, they killed me.
Who's they?
That's what, exactly. Now, obviously, there weren't cameras in this room. This is just what they claimed happened.
Oh, but so they're the ones. They.
Yeah, well, they're the only ones in there. No, I'm talking specifically about a different they. Anyways, if your spouse died, though, and a Ouija board spelled out their name or confirmed them somehow, and then told you they killed me, I think we'd all ask the same question that you just asked. Who? Who is they?
Who?
I hate you. To which the board replied, and I know I'm not saying this right. I went to the internet a bunch of different places, and I listened to pronunciations. Clothide. No, fuck that up. Fuck that right up. Don't look. God damn it! I knew I was going to do this. Stop looking at it. I'll spell it to you, and you can tell me how wrong I am. Clothilde. Clothilde. If it was Hilde, I'd just be like, oh, Hildy. But it's Clothilde, and they said it's like Clothilda, and then a bunch of other different variations. I am, for the rest of this podcast, just going to call her Hildy.
Oh man,
it's the end of her name. I've heard of Hildy before, so we're gonna go with Hildy. And then the board described 3 features regarding whoever this Clothilde was. It said short, bobbed hair, and missing teeth. And I was like, that's a really weird combination of things. Excuse me while I hide my boner. And Nancy was like, those just sound like random letters instead of a name, which I totally agree with. Like, I never heard of that version of the name before. But Lila was like, oh, no, dog. I know some bitch named Clothilde. Her last name is Marchand.
It just sounds so bad.
I know. And she's the wife of some guy named Henry Marchand. And Hildy and Henry were from Paris. They did exist. She wasn't lying. Henry was a sculptor, and his job was to create nature dioramas for Buffalo Science Museum.
That's
which,
cool.
Like, the whole story that we're getting into aside, that's a cool job.
That's a really cool job.
We went to the museum in New York, and there was all these different...
I don't even remember what that museum is called.
I think it was the American Natural History Museum. I'm not quite sure. But it was in New York, and all the things that they had, like, staged for all the animals that we were looking at.
It was amazing.
Yeah, they looked like they're actually in nature. They scared Ryan.
Yeah.
She was super scared of the wolves. They looked vicious.
The way they pose them looks realistic. It's absolutely incredible. They're so talented. You guys do an awesome job.
And that's what that guy did. He also sculpted, so he'd make like models, I would imagine, of the animals as well. Anyways, getting back to the story, Nancy sat back and was like, this bitch murdered my husband? And then they closed the seance. And she didn't really do anything then but take in the information. But a few days after the seance, Nancy was still reeling from what she had found out during it, and she received a letter. And this letter was from someone named Mrs. Dooley, Dooley.
Was her first name Clothilde?
It was just signed Mrs. Dooley. So I don't know if there's a first name, but let me get to the contents of these letters. So they described in these letters, because she got more than one, more details about these dark forces being wielded in order to kill Sassafras Charlie.
What?
Yeah, like these letters are showing up and someone's confirming what the Ouija board had said.
But she
it's
didn't
all
reach
anonymous.
out to someone.
She didn't reach out to anyone. It's all anonymous. And she received multiple letters, like I said. And one of the later letters stated the following. This is a quote. This is from an actual letter she received. I know something secret. I decided that I'd better tell you and help you out, what I can. This is what I know. Charlie Bowen was killed by a witch in this city of Buffalo. So this is taking place in Buffalo, New York. It was from a French woman. She killed Charlie because he didn't have good medicine to sell in the city. Her witchcraft didn't work so good, so she decided to kill him. She's killed many, many that way, Indians and white. But let me tell you more. She fixed another doll the same way to do in his wife, Nancy. And that end part is like really just scrambled up right there, so I kind of just paraphrase what it was actually trying to say. But it's basically saying, like, not only did this woman kill your husband, but whatever she did to kill your husband,
she's going to try and kill you.
She's already put into action for you. So she's getting these letters that are confirming what the seance told her and also telling her, like, you're next, basically, which is terrifying.
So how does this Mrs. Dooley just
know this?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, it seems like dubious to anyone who's thinking clearly. But this woman who just went through all this trauma and just went through this, like, horrifically, like, terrifying seance is, like, just greeted by these letters. She doesn't know who the hell they're from, and they're saying all these things that are terrifying her. Around this same time, too, end of 1929, beginning of 1930, Nancy starts to feel sick. She's not feeling well. So this is even making her feel worse. Maybe it was psychosomatic. I don't know. What I do know is that she told people, like, she's feeling ill, like she feels like she's going to die. And this feeling of illness persisted into February of 1930. So Nancy did what any reasonable person would do in this situation. She bought a bunch of shit for a variety of different spells and hexes and black magic and started casting horrible shit against one,
that'll do
Hildy Marchand. She was just like, I'm going to take her out before she takes me out. And she sends this dark magic her way, and
that created Franz Ferdinand.
I hate you so much, dude. Nothing happens. None of this black magic, none of the spells she casts happens. And to all our skeptical viewers, our listeners, I hope you're like, well, duh. But yeah, nothing happens. And she's probably like, WTF? What did I do wrong? Like, I got the recipe right. Why isn't this working? But this is the woman who supposedly hexed or cursed or magicked her husband and killed him. So she was this bizarre woman to her who went in the forest and picked mushrooms, which Bowen referred to as, quote, strange, hellish vegetables, which is what I'm calling them for the rest of my life. I hate mushrooms. Hashtag I hate mushrooms. I know in this hashtag war, I will lose this one, but I hate mushrooms. But what's funny is, to the Native Americans and to most, like, people in this area at this time, picking wild mushrooms and using them for anything was viewed as witchcraft. They're like, that's just gross.
But are they talking about, like, the mushrooms that'll get you high, or is it just mushrooms in general?
They just didn't like the fact she'd walk into the forest and come back with some mushrooms. Like, regardless of what they were for, they were just like, she's a witch, which is just bizarre to me. But like,
witch is just
I hate you so much, dude. And the next time we order pizza and you order mushrooms, I'm gonna be like, you're a witch. Like, strange, hellish vegetables on this pizza, not eating it. So she decides she's clearly a witch. And like, her friend Lila this whole time is like, yeah, that chick is effing crazy. Like, mushrooms. She's a white witch. She's the white witch of Buffalo. So at this point, the story moves forward, and now it's March. And Nancy feels even worse. And the white witch has not succumbed to any of her spells. So she does what all of us would do at this point. And she goes to the store and she buys a few things. She buys cough suppressant, ingredients for soup, and a rag to soak and place on her forehead to cool her temperature. Side note, I'm lying. She didn't buy any of those things, except for one. I won't lie completely to you. That's what we would have bought if we weren't feeling well. That is not what Nancy bought. Nancy bought a rag, which I wasn't lying about. She wasn't going to use it to soak and put on her forehead. She also bought chloroform. And lastly, she bought a hammer. So this bitch is just getting ready to party. And March 7th,
sounds like a good party.
1930, she rings the doorbell. 69. She rings the doorbell to one Hildy Merchant's house, the White Witch of Buffalo. Hildy answers the door, and Nancy screams out at her, "You're a witch!" And then beats her to death with the hammer.
What the F?
Just clubs her to death in her own home. She then soaks the rag in chloroform and crams it down her throat, just to be sure, I guess. And Hildy's body remained there until guess who came home? If you guessed Henry Marchand, you're right. But if you thought it was her husband, you're wrong. It was Henry Marchand Jr., her 12-year-old son returning home from school, who found his own mother's body laying there just completely devastated.
Bashed in by a hammer.
He ran to his dad's workplace at the museum, and he told him what he had found. They called the police, who arrived to the scene and were like, wow, this is hard to look at. And some people in the neighborhood they interviewed, and they claimed that not that same day, no one saw anything that day, but days recently they had seen 2 Native American women in the neighborhood acting sketchy as fuck. Not exactly their words. They didn't swear and use the F word. They had some racist stuff to say about Native Americans. Assume anytime I say Native Americans, it wasn't said back then. I looked up a lot of articles on this because it really happened. And in police reports and in the news, they never said something as nice as Native Americans. The nicest thing they ever said was natives.
Wow.
So if they're saying anything here, it's pretty racist. The police, being the police force of the 1930s, they decided they were going to go onto the reservation, parentheses, which was illegal, and performed house-to-house searches because they didn't know anything about who would be there. They just heard it was some Native Americans, and they searched all the homes, house-to-house, looking for evidence of the murderer, parentheses, which was illegal, and they were able to gather evidence and brought Lila Jimerson, who in for questioning, and she told the police about Nancy Bowen. And side note, she's a narc, and just shut your mouth. Shut your mouth, Lila. Just saying. It's like there's 2 rules, like never rat on your friends and always keep your mouth shut. And she didn't follow either of them. So they went to Nancy's house, and while they searched her home, they discovered bloody clothing and part of Hildy's glasses. She had taken a part of her glasses.
Of the stuff.
I know this is just a really bad murder, but she was terrified. She legitimately thought this chick was going to kill her, so she wasn't thinking in her right mind, obviously. Not that this excuses anything. Anyways. Lila had not been present at the time of the murder. So they picked her up. She ratted on her friend. They arrested her friend. And you figure, okay, like, that's it. That's the end of the story. No, it's about to get very weird. So the police began to investigate. Hashtag get weird. The police began to investigate why. And, of course, the Ouija board story comes out because they're talking to Nancy, and Nancy tells them everything. And the media picks this up and calls the incident the Ouija board murder. And if you search the Ouija board murder and toss in 1930, 1929, whatever, this is what you'll find. And they also ran a bunch of shit in a bunch of different things that were really, really racist because the 2 women were Native American. They painted them out to be evil. And let's be real, like someone was murdered. One of them was a suspect. One of them claimed a Ouija board told them to do it. You didn't need to be racist to make them sound evil, but they just decided to anyways.
Yeah.
Totally not necessary. It's just
a political thing.
It's a reflection of the times, really.
Yeah.
And the investigation continues. And I got to say, even though they did all this illegal shit during this investigation, they weren't just like open and shut case. They were just like, we really want to know why this happened.
Yeah.
So they start really digging into this. And the investigation continues. More evidence is gathered. Everyone is interviewed. And some new pieces of information come to light. And it's claimed by multiple sources that Henry Sr. was fucking Lila Jimerson. And the police asked Lila, yo, are you banging this dude? And she replied, yup. And then they asked Henry Sr., and he's like, no. Then they searched Henry's home. So at this point, they're like, you seem sketchy, bro. We're searching your shit. So they went into his house, searched his stuff, and they found a stash of love letters from Henry to Lila and back,
wow.
which he had saved as love mementos.
Oh, my goodness.
It's like, dude, if you can't delete that shit, burn that shit. Like, you are so stupid. So, remember how I said Lila wasn't present at the time of the murder? They find out where she was. Guess where she was?
Sleeping with him?
She had called Henry and was like, yo, dog, take me for a ride. And you might be thinking, like, they were boning when I say that.
Garbage truck.
And yes, you might be right. But what she really was doing, besides getting herself a rock-hard alibi, and yes, I mean that as a double entendre.
I can't believe this is this episode.
Was making sure, I know, I had no idea, but she was making sure Henry wouldn't go home while this is going down.
Wow.
So when these things start coming together, Nancy and Lila are arrested, and they get put on trial for the death of Hildy. And during the trial, Nancy tells the judge and the jury the story about the Ouija board and the letters, and her being told that she was cursed, she was going to die, her not feeling well, her being told that she had to kill her. And she tells them that she was getting sick, and she tried to cast magic first, and that it failed. And that's what she truly believed. Like, she had to kill this woman or she was going to die herself. And she was convinced this woman had killed her husband. And Henry Sr. takes the stand, and they question him about his relationship with Lila. And he's like, totally admit taking her to Pound Town. And then, and this is 100% true, during this trial, when they're questioning Henry about the fact that he slept with one of the women involved with his wife's murder, he tells the judge, the jury, and the lawyers, with his family in the audience, or whatever they call it in the court, he admits to multiple affairs with Native American women. He says, and I shit you not, that it was, quote, a professional necessity for his work.
A professional necessity.
I imagine that went like, Your Honor, like, I build dioramas for the Buffalo Science Museum. Banging Native American chicks is crucial to my work. And, like, he is using this as his defense in a court of law. And he states that his wife knew about it. He knew about all of his affairs, and she had given him his hall pass, and everything was good. And slowly but surely, it became clear that Lila Jimerson had plotted this thing to get Hildy out of the way. And she had manipulated Nancy's grief.
I was about to say that, like...
Yeah, for her lost husband, and convinced her that her life was in danger. Because she was the only person there with her when they were using the Ouija board.
She totally dragged it to where she wanted it to go. You can
just see this chick pushing it, and this other chick breaking down in tears, and it just makes me so mad. And when this starts to come out and people are starting to see this picture, Lila's lawyer during the trial shifts the defense for Lila to portray her as like crazy in love and jealous to the point of psychosis, where she didn't understand what she was doing. And this trial resulted in a mistrial. And you might ask yourself, like, is it because of like the illegal entry on Native American reservation? No. Was it because of the illegal searches on their homes that got this evidence? No. It was because Lila collapsed in the courtroom. And she was suffering from complications from tuberculosis and had to be hospitalized.
Wow.
And during this time, they're like, it's a mistrial. We'll get it back on track if we can. And while she's in the hospital, she told those around her, like, yo, dog, I totally did that shit. To which they replied, just so you know, you're better and we are releasing you. To which she replied, yo, dog, I totally didn't do that shit. Recant for life. Hashtag I'ma live. Hashtag YOLO.
Oh my God.
Which is weird because like they didn't call it a hashtag back then. It was a number sign or pound. So like clearly that's not accurate dialogue.
Episode 69.
But she gets out. Like she went in there. They mistrialed it. Yeah.
Pound.
I get it. Yeah. She gets out and the court's like, okay. So March of 1931, about a year after the murder had taken place, the second trial begins. And Lila's lawyer argues that Henry Sr. had known of the plot and he had wanted his wife dead because he was bored with her. And he paints this picture that he's bored with his wife. That's why he's sleeping around, that his wife had been doing everything to keep their marriage together.
Does he have letters from other people or just Lila? Because if he only has the letters from Lila, he's full of crap.
He only has the letters from Lila, but he's admitted to banging these other chicks in the first trial. So now the other lawyer, Lila's lawyer, is like, the reason he slept with all these women is because he was trying to get his wife to leave. And when she wouldn't leave, that's when he started to manipulate Lila. And he paints this picture that he had manipulated Lila into manipulating Nancy. So it's manipulationception at this point. To which Henry Sr.'s defense argued nothing. And you know why? Because Henry Sr. moved. The year between trials, yeah, he up and left. He got the fuck out of town. And you must be thinking right now what I thought. That dude skipped town for Mexico or maybe Canada. Canada makes more sense. It would be way closer and it's a different country. You, like me, would be wrong. But that's what I thought because you run far away or to another country. But Henry Sr. moved to Albany, New York, which is in the same state. It's 290 miles away. If you were to get into a car right now, that's a 4.5 hour drive. That's how far this guy left. He was like, I'm going to leave, but I'm not going to go that far.
So they went and got him, right?
No. The court in Buffalo was just like, well, I guess he's gone forever. Like, nothing we can do. Side note, he moved so he could remarry.
To who?
His 18-year-old niece.
Ew.
He was like, I'm out, y'all. Thanks for killing my wife.
Episode.
I'm going to go plow my brother's daughter. Peace.
This is gross.
As a side note, it could have been his sister's daughter. I didn't look it up. I tried to look it up, but I was like, I'm not digging into the family tree of this piece of shit.
You know, it's funny. I bring up some Cersei.
Oh, God. Episode 69. Okay, so the Cornell Daily Sun details the second trial on February 20th of 1931, which proves that it actually started sooner than March. I think March is when the verdict came out. On February 20th, 1931, the Cornell Daily Sun publication stated that Nancy had talked to the jury, and then they quote, this is me quoting them. She states that Lila told her she had been bewitched by Mrs. Marchand, the White Witch, and that unless something were done to remove the spell, Nancy would die. So she's flat out saying, like, this is what Lila told me. This is 100% what I believed. Her story never changed between the two trials. And the media plays this story from multiple angles, like possessed Native American woman murders white woman. Like, this is like the stuff that why you can still find like Ouija board murder story. And then when you dig into like the aspects of it, you're like, oh, this is a little bit different. Like stuff like evil Native Americans viciously murder white woman. Again, Native Americans isn't what they called them. Some media even pointed out after seeing Henry at trial in the first trial that he was a scumbag, not that word, but like words that meant the same thing back in the day. Even calling him outright arrogant during the trial and unfeeling towards his own wife's death. Like, this dude acted so suspiciously during the trial that the media was just like, this dude's a scumbag. And then he skipped town afterwards.
Yeah.
The jury took what they were presented in the second trial and brought back a verdict. Henry Marchand Sr. was found not there, and they never did anything about it. Lila Jimerson was found not guilty and was acquitted on all charges. And Nancy Bowen was found guilty of manslaughter, and she was sentenced to time served. So the time she spent in jail waiting for the trial or during the trial, they were like, that's enough time, and they let her out. So the judge banged his gavel. Nancy and Lila walked out of the court free women. One was guilty, one was innocent. The only thing they had in common was they were both not going to jail.
I think Lila should have gone to jail because it was obviously her.
She didn't spend any time in jail during this time,
I know, but it's just like she obviously manipulated Nancy, and Nancy's like, I'm going crazy. I don't want to die. I'm getting sick. This is all her fault because Lila's a lying biznatch. So
yeah, and she was just banging Henry, and she probably did want Henry for herself, but like she knew that woman. Like she didn't ever tell Nancy about the relationship that they had together. She just said like, oh, I know her. She is a witch. She's trying to kill you. And then all of a sudden these random letters from Mrs. Dooley show up supporting
so this woman
what
doesn't
happened.
Exist at all.
Mrs. Dooley was and I'm saying this out of pure speculation, Miss Dooley was totally Lila writing that shit, dropping them anonymously on her doorstep because she wanted like Nancy to finally go through with it. And it took a couple months, and Nancy finally did go through with it. And Henry Sr. never dealt with this matter again, and I wasn't able to find whether or not Nancy actually did stay in custody between trials, but if she did, that means that Nancy serving at most 12 months while waiting for the second trial is the grand total of time served by anyone in this situation for Hildy being beaten to death with a hammer. Aside from that, no one served any time, and they just had the inconvenience of having to go to the court.
So Hildy's just an innocent bystander.
She's just an innocent bystander that got killed.
That's
and
so
as much
up.
as I usually cover terrifying situations when it involves a Ouija board, this one is like scary for a bunch of other reasons because it involves like people being manipulated through their belief in the supernatural and people being horrible and just people being outright just like
evil?
Aloof and like not giving a shit that their wife was murdered and then skipping town and people being like, I guess he left. Like there's no long arm of the law when it comes to this story. It's just like, oh, he moved. Like, he married an 18-year-old niece of his. He's good now. It's just like, it is absolutely mind-blowing. He lived until until 1960.
Whoa.
Yeah, I checked when I was looking him up. And, like, even his Wikipedia page only has one section about, like, this unpleasantness. And, like, mostly talks about, like, his work as a sculptor. And, like, his kids became sculptors and dioramists or whatever you call that, too. And they have stuff in, like, a bunch of different famous museums. And, like, that's what I learned about him from his Wikipedia page. Not the fact that he married his 18-year-old niece and pretty much arranged for his wife to be murdered. So I thought it was just shocking how this whole thing turned out. And I was like, this is my topic this week. So that is the story of Nancy Bowen versus the White Witch of Buffalo. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Nice.
Thank you.
Good true crime.
Hey.
Dig it. All right. So this, well, before we move on to the next topic, I want to give a special shout out to all our patrons, specifically a certain one, Bernadette. I'm sure
Shout out to Bernadette.
You're really going to be shocked again. But we really appreciate everyone that is a patron, our amazing spooky friends that support us and help us do this and have helped us survive this past year.
You guys have no idea how much your support. Like, we tried to use the stuff that's been donated to us for exactly like what we said we were going to use it for, cameras, tripods, stuff like that, and we absolutely have. But like, the show would literally not have been possible. The hosting fees, like any of the things that we've done on the show, we could not have done it without your support.
Yeah, and so we thank you guys so much for getting us through the hard times. You guys are awesome. We couldn't do it without you. And I really hope that you guys enjoy this month's design for all the Badge of Honor tier and up people. And please keep supporting us. We really need it. Patreon.com/scarishpodcast. Like,
we can start putting more of ourselves, and by ourselves I mean our own money, into the podcast again. But like, realistically, like traveling, meetups, stuff like that, it really comes down to the support that we get from you folks, and like, not just the support financially. It's not like we're saying like become patrons then we can meet you guys. It really comes down to people saying like, hey, I'd be down for a meetup, you know? Or if we reach out and say like, hey, we're doing this thing on June 9th, hint 2019, hint, we're going to be at the Winchester Mystery House.
What he's saying is we're going to be there June 9th, 2019. Also, I will be at Level Up Expo this year. What?
I will maybe be there one day. I think that's how it's going to work.
Yeah, I think you're going to only be there.
You know why? Because I work one of those days. Booyah!
But yeah, so if you guys are in the Vegas area and want to go to a gaming/anime convention, I am going to have an artist table with our lovely friends at JJ Obsession. I am so excited. Like, you guys have no idea. I'm so excited. It's very last minute. So we are very stoked. If you guys, like art stuff.
Yeah. Anytime that we are talking about doing a meetup and we're like nervous that we're going to go and stand somewhere and be all by ourselves, we realize that like people have said they're going to come out for the Winchester Mystery House. People have visited us when we went to Disneyland.
You guys
on
reaching
occasions.
out to us and telling us like, this is what we want and we want to see you guys and we're going to be there. It makes it a lot easier for us to actually go and do. Yeah, because
then we're just like, well, let's plan this. Like, we have people interested right now, and that's what we're going to do. And it's all thanks to you folks. So thank you. So yeah, come meet us wherever. We're always telling you guys where we are. And it's not like, it's always on social media. I'm just like updating like, this is what we're doing. All right. So aside from that stuff, going into my topic, this week I'm covering the Myrtles Plantation. And I've definitely been putting off this topic for quite a while now. I know I've brought it up before when we were starting out the podcast and discussing like what locations I want to cover and what different topics. You also mocked me for never having heard of it. You're like, you've never heard of it? What's wrong with you? So I'm actually excited to learn about it. Well,
okay, what's cool is that I, while growing up, always heard about it. Everywhere. Travel Channel, Discovery Channels, things like that. They always had like Haunted America.
I've only ever heard of the word Myrtle being associated with someone who has kids a lot being called a fertile Myrtle. I've never met a person named Myrtle.
Moaning Myrtle?
I guess, yeah, Moaning Myrtle too. But I just imagine that she had a bunch of kids before she died.
I bet Myrtle's also, okay.
Yeah, you see how she acts around Harry. Her name should be Fertile Myrtle, not...
I'm so 69.
Fertile Myrtle and Moaning Myrtle are basically the same person at different stages in their life.
Anyway, so... God, this episode's horrible. So I am now going to cover it. I know maybe quite a few of you have heard of it. I guess Adam hasn't heard of it. But I hope some of this stuff will be new to you guys and that you'll enjoy it. It's a little bit different than the usual haunted type of stuff that we've done in the past where it's like, ooh, haunted. This one's more like, what? Is it haunted? I don't know. Okay, we'll get there. So, the Myrtles Plantation is a plantation located in St. Francisville, Louisiana. It's nestled in a region 30 miles north of Baton Rouge. And I'm not going to start spouting off stuff like I know Louisiana because we have never been there. I've never been anywhere near there.
I just know that New Orleans is pronounced Nyawlins. I'm pretty sure I still messed that up. Yeah, like it's really like you merge the two words together.
What?
Yeah, anyone from the area, like tweet at us or message us on Facebook or post it in any of our social medias and let us know how you'd spell how it's said. Like, don't spell New Orleans.
Well, I mean, you could, or just post a video on the Scary-ish Facebook, the Spooky Friends group, like Sam did when she was like, this is how you pronounce
these are the pronunciations of the things that you butchered.
It was absolutely amazing. So if you guys could do that, we always appreciate those. Those are awesome. Anyway, I just care about food. I want to go to New Orleans for the food and just to eat. And
you're a huge fan of crawfish too, so
yes, I'm so excited for crawfish. Just food.
I'm a huge fan of gumbo. I want some real Louisiana gumbo.
I want to try some like real gator, like really good.
They have good beignets.
Oh shit, beignets better than Disney.
Yes.
All right. I've only ever had them at Disney. I've
never been to Louisiana, so I'm just like, yes. Hashtag representing Louisiana, even though I have never been there. It's a long hashtag.
We definitely want to check it out sometime. Our friends just this past year went, and they said it was amazing, although it did flood.
It rained
while
a
we're
lot,
there.
and it flooded a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, definitely want to check it out. A lot of history down that road.
A lot of history down that road. Tell us about the road that has, I was about to say Myrtle Beach, Myrtles Plantation.
So, the plantation itself is definitely not short of history. Built in 1796 by General David Bradford, this place has centuries of comings and goings, lots of changing of the hand, changing of the watch. The grounds,
changing of the guard.
Yeah. I was talking like Game of Thrones though, changing of the watch. Like so.
They don't say that.
I don't care.
Now your watch has ended. Go. That show is so good.
I'm just reeling from my cousin David, who will probably listen to this. But he sent us a picture today of him
sitting on the Iron Throne.
Yeah, he was sitting on the Iron Throne because apparently in New York, so what he said was there are 6 thrones around the world they're just hidden around the world, and you can go and sit on the throne. He said he waited 5 hours.
Yeah, it's a
in
long
line
time to
for
wait.
5 hours to go sit on the throne. And I was just like, this is the greatest thing. I would have totally waited too. You know what I mean?
It's weird that they picked 6. You know what I mean? Because like there's going to be 7 books. There's going to be 8 seasons. That's a different number.
Count,
there's 7
so
kingdoms.
let's say Robb Stark, Cersei. I'm trying to name
Robb Stark never sat on the Iron Throne.
But he was like
the king
a king
in the north. Yeah.
So let's see, let's count. So Cersei, who else was there that
Cersei, Joffrey, Tommen, Robert, those 4 have sat on the Iron Throne.
Well, I'm thinking the people that claimed to be king. So like Stannis Baratheon. Oh my gosh.
To be king.
I'm just thinking there's 6 because of all the people that were like, I'm king, quote unquote, I'm king.
The war in the second book is the War of the 5 Kings.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's still the 6 doesn't make any sense. Is my point in any way, shape, or form. Like you can try and figure out how 6 makes sense. What I'm saying is they should have been a 7th, and it should have been Las Vegas. Damn it.
Okay. Anyway, yeah. That aside, away from the Black Watch,
Myrtles Plantation.
Yes, Myrtles Plantation. We're going way south, not north of the wall, south of the wall.
You're killing me, dude.
Okay, so this thing's built 1796. Lots of changes of the hand. The grounds were built on some 600 acres. 600 acres.
It's a big place.
That's incredible. That's so immense. I can't even imagine having to take care of 600 acres. So it was originally named Laurel Grove. He brought his wife, Elizabeth, and 5 kids to live with him. They did have slaves, though, to take care of all their stuff.
I mean, lots of the plantations were so enormous because they had free labor.
Yes.
Because they treated people as property.
I just can't. That annoys me so much that they're like, we don't have to pay these people. We make a bunch of money because they do it for free.
And if they complain, we'll murder them.
It's so dumb, and I hate it. Bradford died in...
Hot take, ladies and gentlemen. Robin
what
hates
grinds
slavery.
my gears? Bradford died in 1808, but his wife took on the duties after him until 1817. So 9 years of doing it by herself. That's crazy. It was then handed down to her son-in-law, Clark Woodruff, who grew indigo and cotton, in case you were wondering. They had 3 kids, 2 of which, unfortunately, would die of yellow fever. So death kind of starts early.
I'm dying of yellow fever right now.
Okay. So death starts...
Robin's Asian. That's what that joke is.
So death starts early at the Myrtles Plantation. And Elizabeth died in 1831, after which Clark took the whole family out down to, well, I don't know if it's down. They took them to Covington, Louisiana. So his wife died. Elizabeth died. He was just like, I'm out. I'm good. I'm going to Covington. Got a judge job there. I'm out. He sold everything to Ruffin Gray Sterling.
It's a pretty awesome name.
Ruffin Gray.
Is it Ruffin or Ruffin? Ruffin or Ruffian?
Ruffin. Ruffin Gray Sterling.
Wow. Okay, I still like the name.
Yeah.
Ruffian would have been amazing, though.
The Sterlings were already wealthy from having a whole bunch of plantations on both sides of the Mississippi River, which I thought was really funny when I read that, because it's so interesting how much we compare things to a geographical, like, just
Divide.
anomaly. Yeah, like the Mississippi River or the other side of the Rockies, or you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool.
Mississippi, I think, is like the most famous one in America. Like, people are always like, this side of the Mississippi, and you can say it on either side. And realistically, I didn't realize this before I moved out west. I lived in the Midwest growing up. Midwest, by the way, where I grew up, I mean, it's like the Chicagoland area, is on the east side of the Mississippi River. And then you cross the Mississippi River, and Hardee's becomes Carl Jr.'s, Hellman's becomes Best Foods. There's a bunch of other brand names that completely change. And I had no idea. I was like walking through stores and like looking for like Hardee's, and I'm just like, I guess they don't exist out here. But like they just legitimately have different names.
I was listening to My Favorite Murder, and there's a Burger King one that's like that too, where Burger King's named something out here in the U.S. and in Canada it's named something else. I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know. Anyway, so Sterling renovated the house and increased the size of the original building, like doubled the size. He was like, we're swanky. We need that. We need a big house. We're rich. We'll do whatever we want. So that's what they did. They imported a bunch of European imports, like nice furniture, all this fancy stuff, because with money, I mean, just throw it away. Why don't you? They're the ones that actually named the plantation the Myrtles. And fun fact, I just learned while researching this topic that it's not Myrtles as in it's owned by the Myrtles.
There's no apostrophe, is what you're saying?
Yes, it's named the Myrtles because of the crepe myrtle trees that grow in the area. I literally laughed out loud and was like telling Adam, oh my God, I can't believe I've been thinking about this incorrectly.
I will say, I'm sure there's a
time.
lot of people who have made that mistake, because like I did not know those trees. I didn't know those trees existed, to be honest with you, let alone that they're indigenous to that area.
They're very pretty trees that bloom like pink/purple flowers that are really, really pretty. But yes, so the Myrtles plantation is like the Myrtles trees plantation.
It'd be like the Redwoods plantation. I mean, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, something like that.
That doesn't exist.
Except,
but
I mean, no, it's called a redwood forest.
It's a different tree.
Anyway,
That's all I'm saying.
So, Sterling died in 1854 of consumption, aka tuberculosis, aka TB, and
tuberculosis rears its ugly head again.
Yes, and he left the plantation to his wife, Mary Cobb, and I don't know what it says about women of the time outliving their husbands. Like, it happens in multiple cases where the wives outlive their husbands, and there just must be something in the water where they're like, we're gonna live longer than you, no big.
I mean, that's how my story started. This woman outlived her husband, and they're like, black magic.
It's crazy.
From a white witch. Figure that out.
What are the odds? Mary Cobb had 9 children. 9 babies popped out of that. Like, holy crap. That's like being pregnant for 7 or 8 years of your life.
Wow. I never thought of it that way.
It's insane. Then it's like you have 9 kids, you pump all those out, 7 or 8 years of your life, you're pregnant, you're building a person, and then you have 9 kids running around your house.
Yeah, but then they get older and you're like, you are taking care of me because I raised you.
9 kids. Well, unfortunately for her, only 4 of them survived to adulthood to get married.
That's so sad.
So, yes. So, back in the day, people were dropping like flies, yellow fever, TB, all this stuff.
Toe foot.
Turn into knee leg. Then came the Civil War, which we all know was atrocious. We covered Gettysburg. We've been there, done that.
Lots of people died.
The plantation survived the war, except for all of the European fancy stuff that they came and brought in was taken. Union soldiers came, took stuff, destroyed a bunch of stuff. Bad things happened. And the house was left pretty bare bones. And in 1865, Cobb hired a William Drew Winter to help her manage the plantation. And he went on to marry Cobb's daughter. And it just seems to me like it's kept all in the family. But not like Jamie, Cersei type of the family. But they kept handing down this plantation down the family line. So
it sounds like they're handing it down to the son-in-laws, though, not the...
Because they're women.
That's so shitty, dude. Like,
what are you going to do?
Well, yeah, it's the woman's kid still, but it's like... I don't know. I'm not gonna say anything 'cause I don't know the exact family line. I'm just saying
Okay.
like the son-in-law seems to be inheriting it instead of like you giving it to your daughter. You know what I mean?
the husbands keep dying. The husbands die, hand it down to their wives. The wives take care of it for a while, and then the wives are like, okay, we need someone else to take care of it.
I really wonder if this is really being handed down to like the daughter. Like the mother's like, daughter, this is yours now, and then the man's like, I own this because I'm the man, which just pisses me off because it's like it's not yours. Like you married into this. I don't know. I don't have all the facts. I'm just saying I feel a little bit triggered right now where it's like you don't get to marry into something and then have some like a giant plot of land handed to you. It's not how it works.
All right. Anyway, moving on from that. Winter and Cobb's daughter ended up having 6 kids. So these people are just pumping out babies. They're baby factories. And one of their daughters, Kate, dies of typhoid fever. So there's a lot of death that happens on this plantation. A lot of people have died. I just can't imagine having so many kids. 9 kids, 6 kids. I can't even imagine having 2 kids. Jesus.
Some people would be like, I can't imagine losing my child. And Robin's like, I can't imagine having 9 kids pop out of me.
It's just, it's incredible how strong these women have to be, having all these kids, taking care of the plantation on their own, taking care of the kids on their own, dealing with
to this
tragedy
point now
on
it's
their
finally
own.
on their own. But until then, until like 1870s or so, like they had help. Let's be real.
Oh, okay. So anyway, they have 6 kids. One of them, Kate, dies. So on top of all these unfortunate deaths, the family, the Winters, lost all their money because they had all their money tied up in Confederate currency and sugarcane fields. So Civil War,
just like Bitcoin,
sugarcane fields got destroyed. Confederacy got destroyed. All their money just disappeared. So they had to sell the plantation. And I don't know how they did it, but 2 years later, they bought it back.
Wow.
I don't know how that is possible. And every source I saw was like, we don't know how their fortune changed, but they bought it back.
Sold their souls. Crossroads demon.
Oh, shit.
Heard it here first.
That explains what happens later. So
nailed it.
So yeah, I don't even know what they did after they lost the plantation. How do you make money? What jobs did they have? I couldn't find that. In 1871, Winter was murdered on his front porch. So maybe the Crossroad Demon was like,
been 10
pay
years,
up,
bro.
bitch.
Yep.
You cut. Oh, and it was theorized that someone named E.S. Weber had killed him. So they went to court and everything, but they couldn't pin it on him. So technically, his murder, Winter's murder, is unsolved.
An unsolved mystery.
It's an unsolved mystery. No one knows who killed him. At least if it was Weber, he wasn't pinned on it. But hello, Crossroads Demon, that is such a good point.
You.
I didn't even think of that. You're a
solid
genius.
Theory.
All right, it was a demon. Anyway, despite being shot with a shotgun, he was able to climb. Supposedly, he was able to climb up the stairs to the 17th step where he died, and it said that you can still hear his dying steps on the stairs to this day. How much of that is true? Who knows? Sarah, Winter's wife, remained on the plantation with their children until her death in 1878. So she died 7 years later, which is quite a while to handle 6 kids on your own. I mean, dang. Well, 5 kids. Sorry, Kate.
R.I.P. Kate.
But I don't know. Women just outlived their husbands. What are the odds? It's just crazy.
I mean, this guy got shot to death, so yeah, he died of bullets. So it's like, yeah, that's not natural causes.
Mary Cobb, yes, she is still alive, died in 1880. So she outlived Sarah, which is crazy. It really is a family affair. I mean, with how long they kept it in the family, it's crazy. When she died, left it to her son, Stephen, drowning in debt, then had to sell it. So that's where the family line ends, I guess, with Stephen. Poor Stephen. Sorry, Stephen. So he sells it in 1886 because they couldn't get away from their money problems. The plantation then changed hands a few times until it was purchased in 1891 by Harrison Milton Williams. And this guy was smart. He ended up dividing the land all through the Williams heirs, so everyone got a piece, and then sold the main house to someone named Marjorie Munson. And Munson? Yeah.
I just said pulling your arm to Munson. I can't wait to tell people. It's from Kingpin. I hate that you haven't seen these movies.
I've seen Kingpin.
Then how do you not get that? It's such a funny movie.
It's not one of my more appreciated movies.
I hate you
Sorry.
so much. Real Munson, a born loser.
Munson was the start of all the ghost stories. So it seems like weird things started to happen around the home and the property around the home.
So you're saying after you've given us this rich history of people dying in this place, like so many people, that someone eventually moved in and they're like, yo, this place is haunted.
Yeah, she was like, weird stuff keeps happening. And it spurred a sense of curious belief in paranormal goings on. And more changes in ownership happened until a woman by the name of Frances Kerming purchased the property in 1980. And Frances has gone to say that it is indeed the most haunted house in America. And I really here's another section of what grinds my gears. I can't stand when people say that because everyone says that about everything. Everyone claims that their whatever is the most haunted anything. And I just can't. I don't believe any. If websites put that on there, I'm like, bullshit. Sorry.
I have the most haunted printer in America. I mean, it just...
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. It's super haunted. But every now and then it just prints something and it says, hi. Not really. It says toner low or some shit. It doesn't print it. It just flashes it.
It just like comes out.
I don't know what they're trying to say to me.
It comes out all light and pink and stuff because there's no black in it. She and her husband, James, purchased the property only for their marriage to fall apart, unfortunately, and sell the property a bit over 10 years later. So all this stuff that kept happening in their house and what they were having to deal with totally wrecked them. She couldn't handle it. And, I mean, supposedly it had to do with that stuff, but whatever. She wrote a book in 2005 documenting their experiences. They ran the plantation as a bed and breakfast as it was before. So what happened was the owner before them had it running as a bed and breakfast. They came in, the old owner stuck around for a little while to kind of teach them the ropes and tell them how everything worked. And I guess the second day that Frances was there, she heard footsteps and going up and down the stairs and a knocking on her door, and there was no one there. And then she would go to sleep, the lights would be on, she'd go and turn it off. And then she would hear the steps again. And then she would hear rattling on her doorknob. And so she was so scared. She ran downstairs to talk to the owner. And the owner would not, answer. She's just left on her own, in this haunted house. And
it's like that one haunted house where the guy calls the previous owner. He's like, yeah, I found a box buried in the front yard with a bunch of weird religious stuff. And he's
just leave it.
Everything's fine. The house isn't haunted. Put the box back. That's just a weird response.
Yeah, so she drank, I think it was sherry or something. She drank to kind of calm herself and fell asleep on the couch downstairs, which I think is crazy. Why would you stay there after that? But whatever,
But if you're going to have to stay there, you're like, booze is.
And now the current owners, John and Tina Moss, offer ghost tours every day. And before you ask, yes, Ghost Adventures has been there.
Of course they have.
Yeah, Zach Bagans.
Floorboard Creeks. Did it just say kill Zach?
I love that. Okay. Rumor has it, and this is very far out, and I don't know if I believe this rumor at all, is that the plantation was built on an old Tunica Indian burial ground.
Okay, here's the thing. Lots of places say this, and there's a reason in America why lots of places say this. Because
most of America
this is where the Native Americans used to live. So when they were murdered during the wars to purge the land of their people, they rest under where we wound up building shit. And I say we in the general sense of Americans. So when I hear that, you kind of want to roll your eyes like ancient Indian burial grounds. Like, dogs, America is an ancient Indian burial ground.
That's literally, I wrote, granted, what part of the U.S. isn't an ancient Indian burial? It's that's just so much murder, so much, it's everywhere. So if it says that, it's probably true.
Makes me feel less bad about that Native American chick killing someone with a hammer. Not that less bad, though. It's still pretty horrific.
So anyway, that might explain why there's so much bad luck or death on the property. Plus, Crossroads demons, shit happens.
Just don't build Crossroads. Problem solved. The war is over.
Isn't there a movie, a Britney Spears movie called Crossroads?
It doesn't have anything to do with a demon. There's another movie before that called Crossroads with the guy who played Karate Kid. And it's amazing. It is about a Crossroads demon, and it's so friggin' good.
Really?
Ralph Macchio. That's what his name is.
I think I've seen it on Netflix, and we scrolled past it, and you're like, oh,
it's so good. It's not really that good, but it's just, I saw it when I was a kid. He plays the guitar. There's a guitar duel at the. It's basically The Devil Went Down to Georgia in movie form. Instead of being on fiddles, it was guitars.
Oh, cool.
It is okay, but I really want to watch it again.
All right, never seen it. Cool. There are supposedly 12 ghosts that seem to haunt the plantation, some supposedly being a result of any of the 10 murders that has been said to have occurred in the home. And I am going to say supposedly and has been said to a lot because there's no record.
No confirmation on these murders.
Right.
We know the one dude was shot to death,
yes.
So there's one for sure.
So William Winter is said to be one of those ghosts, and
Do you think when he was getting down, he'd be like, "Winter is coming"? Episode 69. This has been horrible.
All right, so I just got that joke.
Dude, oh my God, what takes you so long, dude?
I thought you were just making a Game of Thrones reference.
I was a Game of Bones reference.
Okay, so anyway, he is the only murder actually recorded there, just so you know. There's that. And then one of the legends that I've heard over and over and over again is about a slave named Chloe that used to reside on the plantation. And there isn't a lot of credibility to this, obviously. There's a lot of problems with the story. But it's said that she was hanged after serving poisoned food to Sarah Woodruff and her 2 daughters. And it was supposedly out of jealousy. Legend has it that Clark Woodruff was having an affair with Chloe. And against Chloe's desires, of course. And
it was frequent for slave owners and people who looked down on indigenous people and who looked down on slaves to also be fucking them while they're, going off and saying all the horrible things, because they're just those type of people. And it happened so much back in the day. So it's just as plausible as this could be. I will take it with this grain of salt that you told me I should take it with, because there's no confirmation on it.
So, he forces physical advances, threatening to send her into the fields to work.
That sounds more like rape.
So, yeah. Chloe absolutely did not want to work in the fields and feared she would be sent there once Woodruff's attentions turned to someone else. And she got into the habit of eavesdropping on Woodruff's conversations, getting caught during one particular instance. And she was punished by having her ears cut off. And so she just lived her life covering them with a green turban to hide the scars left behind. And either by revenge or in order to win herself back into the family's good graces so she wouldn't have to go into the fields or do whatever.
I'm going to go with revenge on that one, dog.
Chloe put a bit of poison into a birthday cake for the
Just
eldest daughter.
Full of poison?
Poison, birthday cake, eldest daughter. She supposedly took care of them until they died. So Sarah, the mom, and the 2 daughters ate the cake, got sick. The main dude, Clark, did not eat the cake, therefore he lived. But all 3 of them died by the end of the day.
Wow.
And it was the slaves that supposedly hanged her out of fear of what the owner may do to them, which is crazy. It seems to be just an elaborate legend because their deaths have been attributed to yellow fever. And regardless of this, quote-unquote Chloe is said to be one of the ghosts seen on the property. And I remember growing up watching all these Haunted America shows. They kept showing this picture of what looked like a woman between these 2 buildings, and it was thought to be Chloe. And it's not... the picture doesn't really... You can't really tell. It's like grainy. You know what I mean? You can't tell what it actually looks like.
I think you're going to have to find that picture so we can put it up on the Instagram.
We'll find it. But she is the most frequently seen ghost and has been seen wearing her green turban. Some people say that they wake up in the middle of the night and she's looking at them from the edge of the bed. I would freak out.
I would freak the fuck out.
Anyway, so there's a lot of inconsistencies with this legend, unfortunately. There are no records that even show that the Woodruffs even had a slave. So, I mean, I don't know if you can burn that stuff so it doesn't exist, whatever. But it still gets retold regardless. Doesn't matter. This story gets told over and over again, even though there's no record of slaves existing to them or anything.
That particular family.
That particular family. That dining room that they were poisoned in is supposedly never used for dining again and is now called the game room. But it's like the want to play a game type game room where
you want to play a game?
Where they chain you to the wall and force you to cut your own foot off. If you haven't watched Saw, spoilers.
If you haven't watched Saw, it's been out for like 20 years. That's on you.
Has it been 20 years?
It's been a while.
Holy cow. I remember when that first one came out and Was it Elias that was the one in the first Saw?
Yeah.
Oh man,
that's him.
He's a hottie boobalati. Anyway, he can be my prince. My pirate.
Dread Pirate Roberts.
Yes, yes. I love Princess Bride. Okay. Anyway, Carmine Francis has said that during her 10 years there, she had reports of guests hearing things, seeing things, having their bed lifted, and being chased down the stairs by apparitions. Other reports include smelling perfume of unknown origin and the distant sound of babies crying and parties happening, though there's not any notable source. One of the creepier things that seem to happen are mysterious handprints that appear on mirrors. Granted, anyone can stick their hand to a mirror and make it dirty.
This is true. I was going to say that, like, when I become a ghost, a lot of people have said, like, if I become a ghost, here's how I'm going to haunt people. I'm going to leave handprints on butts because it's just funny to smack someone's butt. And I think they'll be like, what the hell, man?
I don't know what I would do if I wanted to haunt someone. I would push cups over.
Like a cat?
Yes.
You basically want to be a cat ghost?
I just want to knock drinks over all the time.
You should trip people going upstairs. Robin's revenge.
Oh my god, maybe that's why I fall all the time.
It all makes sense now.
Children can be heard playing on the porch. The grand piano plays the same chord over and over again, but when someone enters the room, it stops. And then when they leave, it starts up again, which is creepy.
That is creepy.
One person was hired to greet people at the front gate every day, and one day while he was working, a woman in white came through the gate without saying a word to him and disappeared through the front door without even opening it. Needless to say, he quit.
I was going to say, yeah, that'd be it for me.
The front door has a stained glass French cross on it, and the shutters and porch are painted a very particular blue, called haint blue or something. And
as in haunt, haint?
Hainted. These are all supposed attempts to ward away malevolent spirits. And I don't know much about the concept of magic or superstition when it comes to Louisiana lore, so I don't know how much that's true. Still, it could just be their superstition. That's what they believe. That's what they want to do. And if they believe it, and that's all that matters. So if that's how they want to protect their home and how they believe they're protecting their home, that's cool. You know what I mean?
It'd be cool to dig into that, too, because I know, like, Louisiana specifically, like, it's like a deep South state, obviously. So finding out if you fucking quote Little Nicky, I will lose my mind. This woman will not stop quoting that movie, and it is such a not good movie, man.
It's not a good movie.
It's cheesy. It's kind of fun to watch, but if I hear her say the Deep South one more time, I'm gonna jump out a window, man.
Okay.
I was working my way towards voodoo when I want to research it, but you know what? I just don't even care anymore. Popeye's chicken, whatever.
Anyway, so these stories just seem to grow and evolve over time, and it seems like that's what the story of the Myrtles Plantation really is. It's a game of telephone. Chinese telephone, whatever you want to call it. And it changes as time goes on, and despite these things, strange things still seem to be reported around the Myrtles property. So when it started with Munson was like, weird stuff happens. Okay.
See rubber hands everywhere.
She was like, weird stuff keeps happening. And then she tells the next person and that next person, and it just keeps spreading.
And they tell
then
two friends.
When Frances moved in, she talked to everybody that lived around the area, and they told the stories to her. And so it just exploded. And then it started showing up on TV and magazines and all this stuff. And the plantation itself might actually be haunted. A lot of people say, yes, it is haunted, but the legends that go along with why it's haunted might not match up. So it might just be all these kids, all these people that have died there. You know what I mean? And not necessarily these elaborate stories that have to be made to explain seeing certain apparitions.
The one that I would totally buy is the guy who died after getting shot. Like,
yes,
it's legit. You know what happened? He died in the house. So it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I can see that. But at the same time, like, when you talk about a plantation, you talk about a place where, like, there is a legend of a slave being killed there. It's like, they don't keep records of stuff like that. They didn't care. And it's just horrible that they didn't, but, like, they didn't. So when you go to a place with that rich of, like, really, really bad history, it's like, it's really hard, regardless of whether or not it's haunted, not to feel that.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I understand why I think people go to this place and say, like, yeah, this place feels wrong or feels haunted, or even people are like, most haunted place in America. So that kind of rings true with me. But at the same time, like, I don't know if I want to visit there. Most of the places that we hear about, I want to visit, but this place just seems to have a long, sad history.
Yeah.
That it's like, I if we were in Louisiana, I would probably want to go see it. I wouldn't, like, make a trip to Louisiana just to see that. I probably make a trip to Louisiana to go see different stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like we're like,
Titties.
oh, we're going to go see Winchester Pinch. That's hilarious. I got some beads. But no,
right.
I'm serious. Like, it's a very interesting thing, and I think it has rich history, and it's just really sad history. So
yes, absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, when I said there's a lot of history down that road, I'm not like joking.
You're not just quoting South Park,
no,
quoting Pet Sematary.
It's really a place in the country that has so much history, and so much has happened there, and it's absolutely incredible. I mean, the architecture and everything, there's just so much to see, and I think that'd be really cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that is the story of Myrtles Plantation.
Cool.
That is Myrtles without the apostrophe.
Good to know. And everyone out there that hears someone say it the wrong way, because you can always hear that apostrophe, tell them, whoa, there's no apostrophe in that. Say it again. But yeah, that's everything we have for episode 69. Sorry for all the dirty references. They just kept coming. And
Go stop!
I thought you were going to go with the All-Star song. They just kept coming and they don't stop coming. But seriously, we're just tired. We're loopy. And I thought we still have pretty good topics, though. I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
So thank you to everyone who listens regularly. Thank you to everyone. If this is your first episode, you're amazing. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for making it all the way
I
through
hope
an
we
episode.
didn't scare you off.
Right? They're like, I'm never listening to this crap again. But seriously, thank you to everyone. And if you want to join us, you can. We actually record our Storytime episodes live Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can watch us at youtube.com/scaryish, or you can watch us at twitch.tv/scaryish podcast. And we record the stories that you folks send us. So if you have a story, like a ghost story, a spiritual happenings, weird thing that happened, creepy, paranormal, aliens, whatever the case may be, email us and let us know. The email address is storytime@scaryish.com. You can also go to facebook.com/scaryish podcast and message us. You can tweet at us at scaryish pod. You can Instagram us at scaryish podcast. You can also join like our communities. We have Scarish Spooky Friends group. That's on our Facebook page as well. And there's just a bunch of memes and fun stuff, and we share some creepy stuff as well. And we have a Discord server, which just recently hit 200 folks active in the Discord server. Some of you guys might not be active, but we're not going to delete you, because people will come back and be like, sorry, I've been gone for so long. But it doesn't matter. Discord is fun. We get to talk to each other and just like day-to-day live type of stuff. And if you want to join that, go to our website, scaryish.com. Scroll down on the right-hand side. You'll see links for all the social medias.
Yep.
Find the Discord logo. Click it. It takes you right there. And last but not least, if you would like to reach out to us, you don't have any of those things, go to scaryish.com, click on Contact Us. And if you can do that, put in your message, click Send. Sends directly to us, and that's a really good way for you to get us your stories. And we appreciate every one of you that does that. We also have a store there, so we have a bunch of different stores across a bunch of different platforms. All the products are located on our scarish.com store, and if you are interested in any of them, click on it. It'll take you to that link where you can purchase it. It'll give you all the options like sizes, colors, different stuff like that.
Yep.
Robin, if people wanted to donate financially to us, you mentioned the Patreon thing. What else do we have?
So we have coffee, ko-fi.com/scaryish podcast. Those are one-time donations, and those help us upgrade our studio setup. We have definitely been able to make a few upgrades, and I'm sure you folks have noticed if you've been watching us from the beginning. Not only have you seen my hair grow really long, but you see the quality of the video get better, our audio get better. It's been quite a journey. I think it's amazing. And
we're still going too.
Yep. And so patreon.com/scaryish-podcast. Those are monthly donations. And we do have early access. We have a few special tidbits that we've put on there. We will create more. It's just been really busy. And all of your support is so, so, so appreciated and makes life so much better. And we are so thankful for each and every one of you. We have so many patrons, and please don't think we don't see you, because when we see every single name. We see every single person. I package everything myself. I label everything myself. It's all done by me. And
I help as much as I can.
Adam can't mail anything out anymore now that he has a job. But I
can take it on my lunch break.
We do appreciate everything that you guys do for us. So, yeah.
I think that's everything we got for episode 69. So, Robin, sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.